The premise of what we're doing is we're copying BuzzFeed Unsolved.
But not really.
So there's no solving to be done.
There's no mystery.
So just BuzzFeed Un.
So if you've watched BuzzFeed Unsolved, you might kind of like get what we're going for. If you haven't, I honestly recommend checking them out because it's really funny and it's kind of spooky, but like the humor, I don't know. Yeah. I like it.
Anyways, so what happened is Irene here researched a myth and she didn't tell me a darn diddly thing.
This will probably be a pretty familiar myth. I wanted to start out pretty familiar, but I don't think a lot of people know the specifics to it and kind of the details. And kind of like all the moving parts. So yeah, and this is actually just one version. So I have my notes here, and I will be telling the myth, and Irene will be reacting. So without further ado, here is the myth of the abduction of Persephone.
I'm scared.
Yeah. So, in the beginning...
Ooh.
This isn't a story, not in the beginning. In the beginning of the story, Hades approaches Zeus with the proposition to take Persephone, whose name was Kore,
okay,
her, as his wife.
Homegirl, got it.
He did not consult Persephone herself or Demeter. Instead, he only consulted Zeus, which in standard ancient Greek practices was pretty standard. The groom would approach the father, ask for the hand of the bride, the father would agree or disagree, and then the wedding would happen, and the bride would kind of be along for the ride.
Fun.
Yeah. So, by ancient Greek standards, Hades is doing the pretty standard thing. So he approaches Zeus and asks for Persephone's hand, and Zeus grants it to him and thinks that Hades will make a wonderful husband because he's his brother. But Zeus tells Hades, Demeter's not going to be down for this. You have to trick her, basically. So they employ the help of Gaia, and they make a beautiful field full of flowers to entice Kore. And Kore and some nymphs wander into the field, and they look at all these beautiful flowers, but it's basically a trap. And the ground opens up, and Hades pops out with his chariot of horses from the underworld.
Talk about a dramatic entrance. He's like, it's me!
Hey, babe! Hades pops up.
So Hades pops.
He pops and takes her into his chariot. And this is also the part of the myth that was actually mistranslated as he raped her. And it was actually the word for abduct. And people thought that he actually raped her in the field. Which is why it's also called the rape of Persephone. He is dragging Persephone into the underworld. She shouts out to Zeus and says, I'm being kidnapped. Like, Dad, help. But Zeus doesn't hear, or he ignores. It makes it seem like he didn't hear, but it's also possible that he ignored.
Nice.
So the only people who do hear are Hecate and Helios. And Helios was the sun, and the actual sun. And Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft.
Coolness.
Coolness.
She's a cool lady.
Of liminal places, of three-way crossroads. Not four-way crossroads, three-way crossroads.
Not to be confused.
Not to be confused with. But they kind of keep quiet about it. And I think it was Hecate wasn't sure if she was hearing something correctly. So she didn't say anything.
Nice.
So Persephone is missing, and Demeter realizes that her daughter isn't there anymore, and she starts looking for her. And she's searching, and she's searching, and she's searching, and after 10 days...
Ooh, Zeus wasn't like, hey babe, who's not my babe, hey sister, who I had sex with that one time. So like, I made a deal. Okay, now hear me out. So you know like our other brother? So like, our babe that I like forced you into having, I forced her into getting married to someone else.
By the way,
I hope that's cool with you. If it isn't, I'm gonna leave before you can tell me it isn't. Bye!
Basically.
Babe.
My goodness. After 10 days, Hecate finds Demeter and tells her, hey, I heard Persephone, or at least I think I heard
So
Persephone.
Hecate went to Demeter.
Yes.
Okay.
And because she saw that she was searching, and she's like...
It took 10 days for her to be like, oh!
Yes, but the amount of 10 days is actually important. It's a point I will bring up later. So she tells her that she thinks she heard Persephone crying out for help, but she wasn't particularly sure, and what they should do is go and talk to Helios, who's the sun and sees everything. And so they go to him, and he says, yep, 100%. I totally, man. Well, he has no reason to lie. He does what he wants.
Really like them being like, yo, Helios, did you? And he's like, yeah.
Helios says, yes, I saw Persephone be taken. But he points out that Hades is actually a really good husband and would make a very good husband. That because of his status, that it's actually for Persephone, who's a lesser known deity, to marry up. So Demeter decides, as kind of halfway punishment, halfway to put herself in mourning, she disguises herself as an old lady, as an old woman mortal, and she goes down to Eleusis, or Elysius. Or Eleusis. She goes to this place, which is actually north of Athens. It's a real place. So she disguises herself, and she decides to sit by a well. And she sits there, and she's lost in thought and in mourning, and is just very forlorn looking when... Vogue pose.
Just people being like, can I get by? And she's like, if you must.
So eventually the daughters of Keleos, don't know how to say it, see her and are concerned. And Keleos, which is how I will be pronouncing it. So they see this old woman, the daughters, and they're concerned, and they go to her and they say, what's bothering you? Who are you? How can we be helpful? Because these girls, they're called maidens, which I kind of interpret as being like they're not married.
So probably like 12 to 14.
12 to 14. It's probably the age range.
They're like, hey, what up, babe? What's poppin'? Why you sitting here so forlorn, babe? I got the job for you, babe.
So
don't you worry, babe.
I got
your back, babe.
You begot. So
you begot.
So Demeter doesn't tell them that she's a goddess. She instead gives them a fake name, which starts with a D. I didn't write down. And she says that she's from the island of Crete, and that she was kidnapped by pirates, and that when the pirates landed near Eleusis, she escaped, and that all she really wants is a job as a nurse, and that she wants their pity. She just wants, she wants pity and a job, basically.
Me.
So the daughters say, well, there are many great houses around here with children. However, our mother just had a little boy, and we are looking for a nurse, and you seem like the best fit. So they take her to their house, and she sits down in silence because she's mourning over her daughter, who's been kidnapped, and she's still very sad and upset about it. And the wife of Keleos, whose name starts with an M, who I didn't write down.
Noise.
She comes across her and welcomes her, but Demeter is silent. And then the wife of Keleos says, oh, I can see that there's grace and nobility in you. You don't seem like just some poor beggar woman. It's obvious to me that there's something special about you. Now, she doesn't know she's a goddess. She probably just thinks, she's of noble birth. She's, maybe a high-standing person in Crete, but she, no one suspects that she's... So the wife of Keleos gives her son Demophon, which is an interesting name. and he's a newborn baby boy. And what Demeter does as his nurse is actually she doesn't give him, breast milk. She gives him ambrosia, which is what the gods drink in order to become immortal.
Like, was there some sort of, okay, I know it probably didn't say this, but, like, was there some sort of, like, something about him that made him special, or was she just, like, the first baby?
I don't know.
Because, she's blatantly trying to replace Persephone at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty blatant.
And she's just, there's nothing, and she's just like, you'll do.
But what she also does is, when he sleeps at night, she rolls him up and she puts him into the fire. And
he's like, I feel so warm and toasty.
Thank you, nurse. And I
was a little chilly. That's my impression of the baby. That's the baby's voice. I was feeling kind of low. Thanks for this. Nurse.
Thanks, Mama.
Demeter.
Whatever your face is. But I just want to state that I have found no other example of someone having to be put into the fire in order to become an immortal. Like, usually it's just, drink this. Wow, you're immortal now. Welcome to godhood.
She was like, trial and error, man.
For some reason, she decided to put him in the fire.
Demeter's like, listen, I got my reasons.
I do things my own way.
The baby's like, she got her reasons. Sorry, I just want to do the impression of the baby as much as possible.
Earth.
I feel so warm and thirsty.
So, okay. So Demeter does this for a few days. And one night, because she tends to put him in the fire at night when he's sleeping, Demophon's mother comes in and sees her son in the fire. So the mom starts crying, and normal parent reactions.
Momly emotions.
And Demeter gets angry and tells her that she
Unnatural reaction.
I don't know, ruined the ritual, and that she has messed up, and that what she's done is basically made him so that he can't be immortal. When Demophon's mother kind of like she doesn't demand, but she's like, basically, what on earth? Demeter kind of explains that this ritual would have made him immortal. Demeter reveals herself. She takes off the disguise of the old lady, and she's her.
I'm just imagining her like whipping her coat off, and she's like, "It's me!" And they're like, "Ew."
Well, apparently, if you look at a god, you burst into flames. But only sometimes. The rule.
I'm just imagining her being there and just like, it's you!
Ah, yes, you! She's like, I'm Demeter, and they go,
like,
oh, no! So she's angry, because they've messed up what she's been trying to do for Demophon. So his mom goes to Kelios, who's his dad, and she tells him what's up. Mm-hmm. And so in an effort to appease Demeter and kind of also thank her for her efforts, they build her a temple.
Oh.
Just saying, clearing things up. Demophon lives. He's fine. Like, he's not dead. He may or may not be immortal.
Yeah,
it's unclear.
I'll put, like, footnotes.
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
Demophon, immortal? Question mark?
Question? I don't know. I'll send you things. So now that Demeter has revealed herself as a deity, everyone knows now. And so she goes and she decides, I'm going to live in this temple, and I'm going to carry out the rest of my anger and defiance in the temple. But also, meanwhile, Demeter's making nothing grow.
Oh.
Like, there is a famine. Nothing is growing. Because Demeter is the goddess of the harvest, of crops, of abundance.
All the other gods are like...
There's, like, famine all across the land as this is happening. Because she's not doing her godly duties. And the other gods are getting concerned. Because, A, she's a god who's not doing what she's supposed to be doing, and humans are suffering. But so she's chilling in the temple, she's angry, nothing's growing. Everyone, mortal and deity combined, they're all concerned. So Zeus decides, Demeter's really mad at him, and it probably wouldn't be great for him to show up. So what he does is he
show up.
No.
Okay, I was about to be like,
that,
it wouldn't be a good idea if I showed up,
but I'm gonna do it. So what he does is he sends Iris, who is a messenger deity.
And rainbows.
And rainbows. Yep. Could you stop the famine? And Demeter goes, nope. Not till I get my daughter back. And Iris kind of goes, well, you know, our hands are tied. She's married. She's living with her husband. You can't really unmarry her. It's called divorce, kids. So Demeter just basically says, nope, I'm not gonna do anything. So Zeus employs the help of a bunch of other deities to try and talk Demeter into stopping the famine. I don't believe he himself actually goes out. It's too much work. But that's probably because, you know, he's the one she's mad at. So, you know. So eventually, all these deities come to this temple, keep trying to tell Demeter, hey, could you, not kill everyone? And she's not budging, she's not budging, she's not budging. So Zeus eventually just goes, oh my god. She's seriously? Okay. Guess we're gonna have to do something. So he gets Hermes.
Oh.
And he says, Hermes, I need you to go to Hades and tell him what's going on. And tell him that people are dying and that Demeter is doing this.
So Hades, here's what you missed.
Hermes goes down to the underworld. And he sees Hades, and the way it's kind of described is Hades is on his throne, and Persephone is like cowering at his feet, basically. She's like this reluctant, shy, kind of waif-like character. And Hermes goes up to Hades and, tells him everything that's going on, and Hades says, okay, alright. Persephone, you're gonna have to go. Because people are dying. And, I guess, I hope I've been a good husband to you. You gotta go up. And so it's pretty anticlimactic. Hades really doesn't put up a fight. He's like, alright, you gotta go. But, here's where the pomegranates come in. Supposedly, according to Persephone, this is the time after Hermes turns around and goes back up to tell Zeus, alright, Hades is going to let her go, that Hades shoves pomegranate seeds into her mouth. He forces her to eat them.
Okay.
So this is according to this author.
Okay.
So he didn't even trick her, he full on
just straight up,
shoved it in there. So
I'm so mad that he was okay at this point. He was doing so well. He was like, all right, okay. And I was like, and then he was like, and I was like, no.
Something shook.
I was rooting for you, dude.
It's disappointing.
This author.
But, so, Hades brings Persephone up into the upper world.
Did they clarify if Hades intended to put, everything up in there?
No, it was 6 seeds exactly. So they embrace, it's great, it's all happy, but Demeter pulls back and she says, I certainly hope you didn't eat anything in the underworld.
Stephanie's like, this is not
well,
a problem.
Actually...
this is not a problem I thought I'd have to think about in my life.
So,
you should have warned me, Mom.
Why would you, no one
She's like, listen, Persephone, here's some wisdom to your, baby self. If you ever go to the underworld, if you get forcibly kidnapped and, made to be the wife of Hades, just on the off chance, such a relatable circumstance, don't eat anything. And Persephone's like, yeah,
okay, Mom. Make sure I don't do that.
I'm gonna go play in the flowers now.
Oh, crap, what is that? So Demeter asks, well, did you eat anything? Because if you did, you have to stay in the underworld. So Persephone says, hey mom, actually, Hades forced me to eat.
I just really like Demeter being like, baby, you didn't eat anything, did you? And Persephone's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. She isn't like, oh my god. She's just like, ooh.
She tells Demeter, oh, yeah, no, actually, I was forced to eat some pomegranate seeds.
You're right, that I was.
And so they decide, well, you only ate 6 seeds. So, and this is actually where the misconception is. People think that that meant that she spent 6 months in the underworld and 6 months in the upper world. That's actually not what happened. So the Greeks divided the year into 3 seasons. There was spring, summer, and then not spring/summer. So what they come to realize is that she only ate 6. So what that means is that she should spend 1/3 of the year in the underworld. And she will spend 2/3 of the year in the upper world with her mother.
Oh, I thought it was 50-50, but yeah.
Nope, it wasn't. That's actually a common misconception. Because they think that the 6 seeds mean 6 months. I don't know why the 6 seeds don't mean 6 months. It means 1/3.
So apparently this was out of 18, like...
So they realize that that's what the 6 seeds means, is that she's going to spend 1/3 of the year in the underworld. And so Hecate and Rhea actually come and kind of agree that this is the contract now. Like they're almost like witnesses to a contract, that this is what's going to happen from now on. And Demeter is upset because she realizes that she's not going to have her daughter constantly with her, and that she's not really getting her back, that she is still married to Hades, and that she's still going to have to live with him. But she agrees because it's better than not seeing her at all. It's a lose-lose. Anyways, so then, this isn't actually the end of the story. Demeter goes back to Eleusis, where she had spent her time, and she shows them these magic rites and rituals. And thus begins the Eleusinian mysteries. And if you know anything about that, it's actually this really huge celebration that was in ancient Greece, and you had to be initiated, and it was this big, it was kind of like this, what are they called? Freemasons. Like it's this society that everyone knows
the
about.
Illuminati.
The Illuminati. But it's the Freemasons because they're an actual society, but you have no idea what goes on inside.
Yeah.
And that only the initiated know the things, and supposedly they would perform these rituals and Persephone would reveal herself. Also supposedly they did a ton of drugs. But so that and the 10 days is actually, I think, how long the Eleusinian mysteries last, because that's how long she searched. So basically that is the myth of the abduction of Persephone and why Greece has seasons.
In summary, that stone slabs are not the best way to communicate. If you see someone putting your baby into the fire, don't interrupt them. What's wrong with you?
Leave them alone.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Employing strangers to take care of your children you've never met a day in your life.
They were like, "Do you have any references?" And she's like, "No." And they're like, "You're hired." Like him getting to the top, and he's like, "Is Persephone here?"
And they go, "She's right." Oh my god.
yeah. And he's like up there with his like chariot and everything, trying to look all nice, and then she's just
down there.
She falls, and he's like, "Oh." Honestly, if there was honestly, everyone should be nice to strangers, because like, who knows if it's a deity? Like, you could be a deity, and I would be like, bruh.
I vanish. Anyway.